What's up, guys? It is Trey the Great here again with another Way of the Swan battle report. This time I'm playing with a couple theme forces, and the matchup today is the mighty armies of Cygnar versus the tricksy druids of the Circle Orboros coming out of the woods to try to lay low the civilizations of man. So the matchup for today is actually going to be Constance Blaize, not a caster I play very often, definitely not competitively, because every time I play her, she seems like a worse version of other way cooler warcasters in the Cygnar lineup. But her theme force is super fun to play, so when I'm playing casually, I do tend to take it out a lot of times as a bit of a palate cleanser between playing just the standard Epic Haley, Epic Striker, all that stuff. Anyway, the matchup is Constance Blaize versus Morvahna2. Not a great matchup for Constance Blaize. Morvahna2 has so many ways to get around her feet between Carnivore and Skinwalkers with their Blood Drinker ability. Additionally, Morvahna plays such a hard attrition game with her rerolls, getting the rolls she wants, and her feet just bringing back entire units of dudes after I kill them. So she's going to be able to out-attrition Constance Blaize, which is not really what Constance Blaize wants to see. Once Constance's feet is over and her infantry start dwindling, she tends to lose a lot of steam, and Morvahna can just make the work those infantry do pretty trivial, pretty quickly. But anyway, I'm going to play it out because it's super cool. The player I'm playing against at this point is a veteran player, normally plays Cygnar and a couple other factions, but today he's delving into Circle Orboros. This is actually his first game of Circle Orboros, so we'll see how it goes. My list is a tier 3 Army of Light list. I didn't go all the way to tier 4 because I wanted to bring a Stormwall in order to bring some ranged firepower to the game. And Stormwall, after my opponent chews through my 35 infantry models, tends to be able to tank the game out pretty well after he armors up. A lot of times players don't have the beef to get through an entire fully armed Stormwall when the game starts winding down. But anyway, the list is Constance Blaize with her Stormwall, as I said before. 2 max unit of Precursor Knights, both with their unit attachments. One of them's free from the tier 2 bonus. A max unit of Sword Knights. Harlan Versh, the Illuminated One. Again, another gun, and he gets advanced deployment from the Theme Force benefit for tier 1. Archduke Elaine Runewood with Sentinel. This is a piece I like to help Constance tank towards the late game. She tends to try to armor up once the game starts attritioning and try to just tank through things and close the game out herself with her spear. And the Sentinel makes that happen by shield guarding iris shots or big gun shots that want to go into her and try to soften her up before my opponent tries to kill her. It being marshaled on Runewood also lets it run or boost gunshots, so that's one more gun I have to clear screening infantry models, and without taking any focus off of Constance Blaize, which is what I really want to do. Constance really wants to spend that focus or camp it. Last but not least, I have a Journeyman Warcaster because he is in the Theme Force and he's going to help that Stormwall and Constance survive in the late game. Alright, so I am up against Morvahna2. Pretty standard Morvahna2 list, running 2 Stalkers, a Gorax, and a Wilder. A max unit of Wolves with their unit attachment. A max unit of Skinwalkers with their unit attachment. That's going to be a really annoying model to chew through because they are so hard to kill. Between Fog of War for concealment on the way in, so I can't do a lot of damage with shooting. And then Blood Quenched when they get in there to heal themselves back up if I don't fully kill any of them. And then once I kill any and Morvahna feeds them back, they do come back at full boxes. So if I try to kill them early, that's a lot of boxes to chew through. So the best response is usually to try to give them a bunch of cheap infantry I don't care about, and then hold off until Morvahna's forced to feed on other units, so you don't end up having to dedicate models to kill that unit twice. My opponent is also bringing 2 units of Shifting Stones, 1 with their unit attachment, 2 Gallows Groves, and a Witch Doctor, a Gatorman Witch Doctor, to give one of his units Undead and Tough to make it even harder to chew through them. The scenario today is incoming. In this scenario, there are 2 zones, 1 on each side of the board. They are rectangular zones, 6x12. You can dominate your friendly zone, the one closest to your deployment zone, for 1 point, control the enemy zone for 1 point, and dominate it for 2 points. You can also destroy the objective on the enemy side of the board for an additional 1 point. And the objectives, as long as they are not contested, give boosted damage rolls to light artillery. So if I ever see any light artillery, I'll let someone know. So let's get into this game. Let's see how Constance Blaize is able to deal with the heretical druids of the Circle. Alright, here we are in deployment. I did win the roll to go first, and I chose to take the first turn. I do like going first with this list because I can threaten very strong scenario game with the +2 speed that tier 3 gives me in the theme force. So I'm able to push up very far and threaten my opponent very, very early. Here I am deploying the Storm Wall towards the back of my deployment zone to be screened by the infantry and just be a late game piece. The Sword Knights are going in front of it with Constance Blaize and my support going centrally located. I have one unit of Precursor Knights on each side. As you can see, I have two different paint schemes for the units. Harlan Versh gains advanced deployment from the tier 1, so he's going to go down later. But I have a white unit of Precursor Knights, they are closer to the camera, and then a green unit of Precursor Knights farther away on the far side of the Storm Wall there. Now my opponent's deploying. Morvahna and her battle group are going to go in the center. The wolves are going to go closer to the camera to try to delay a scenario on that close zone as much as possible. With Tough and Fog of War and Morvahna's feet, they can be very, very difficult to take out. Even though they don't have the best defensive stats in the world, 13-13 means that most things that can hit them are going to get through their armor. Skinwalkers are going across from my zone to get in there and be a really annoying unit to remove. Harlan Versh is going behind that house. Normally Carnivore goes onto those Skinwalkers, so Harlan Versh is going to go up there to try to dissuade that from happening. Once Carnivore goes on them, he's going to go up, he's going to get an additional die to attack and damage, and with those boosted power 10s, he can chew through a lot of Skinwalkers very quickly if my opponent allows Carnivore to stay there without much use of resources on my part. Harlan Versh is pretty much going to be in this list regardless, and he's just going to sit back and shoot a bunch. My opponent's putting his shifting stones in the center, one Gallows Grove on each side to give Morvahna some spell coverage, and then we are into the game. Here are my Precursor Knights running up with their +2 speed, so they are running 16 inches, getting really, really far up the board there. I put the command module, I like to call it, of the Precursor Knight unit. This is the Sword Knights getting Arcane Shield and running up. In a little triangle formation, the Standard Bearer and the unit leader are in the front, where the officer is in the back. The officer is obviously the most important part of that unit because of his mini feat that he wants to stay alive until he gets to use. So the Standard Bearer and the unit leader aren't as important, and they're going to block line of sight to him. So it's going to be a little more difficult to take that officer out with 1 or 2 shots. And you can't even target them with AoE spells to get at him, so that's pretty good. I've run the Sword Knights up in the middle, and then the green unit of Precursor Knights up behind them, so the Sword Knights are going to be a buffer for that unit, and anything that gets in that zone is going to be threatened by those green Precursor Knights. So hopefully they're going to be able to get a good charge off with their mini feat on anything that gets into the zone. My opponent's going, running up his wolves, shifting up the shifting stones. The Wolves of Warmachine are going to get Zombify from the Witch Dock. So that's going to give them all tough and fearless, so that they're going to be very difficult to remove. Gallows Grove's moving up for some spell action, and then the Skinwalkers running as well. First round, not particularly exciting. Everything runs. The Stalkers running up, they are going to Prowl because of Morvahna's Fog of War. That makes her control area the AoE of a concealment granting spell, which means that the Stalkers are going to get Prowl anywhere in her control area as long as she's upkeeping that spell. So that is very solid. That means they don't need to be anchored to terrain or swamp gobbers in order to get that stealth that's going to keep them alive for my big guns. Morvahna's moving up, casting Fog of War and Carnivore onto the Wolves of Orboros. So unfortunately, Harlan Versh is not going to get to kill some Skinwalkers today, but hopefully he can get close enough to the Wolves to try to take a couple out with his multi-fire gun. Over to me. I forgot to mention I cast Banishing Ward onto Constance Blaize, so fortunately she's going to be a little bit difficult to take out with Morvahna's spells. Morvahna has a very, very strong spell assassination run. She can run models up to you and hit you with a Death Knell, Feetback, Gallows Groves anywhere around you, and with rerolls she just makes assassination runs happen. So fortunately Banishing Ward is going to make it difficult to pull off without Purifying first, so that will significantly reduce the number of spells she's going to get to throw at me. Path's Victory going down on the Sword Knights. They are charging forward. I did charge one of the Skinwalkers with a couple Sword Knights. If I spike damage rolls and take him out, that would be awesome. Unfortunately, I don't, which means that Skinwalker is going to be able to remove from play my dudes with his Bloodraker ability. So unfortunately, that's not going to work very well because this is going to be a feat turn. and I want to limit the amount of remove from play my opponent's going to be able to get on me. Hordes moving over, shooting at those Wolves of Orboros, killing one of them, and then the only other model in range is a stone, so just taking a bunch of shots at the stone, unfortunately not doing any damage. Those power 10s have a trouble getting through armor 18. Here is the Sentinel moving up, strafing some of the Wolves, rolling pretty well, boosting one attack roll, taking one out, hitting another one, and fortunately I don't think I break armor with the other one. Precursor Knights running up just to get in the way and threaten that zone. Again, like I said, if those Stalkers move forward at all, I'm going to be able to take them out with Precursor Knights, and that is really what I would like to do. The Stormwall's moving up, angling to face those Wolves of Orboros. First cannon shot, taking a shot just in range, boosting to hit, hits, and he passes his tough check. Fortunately, though, that guy was threatening a bunch of free strikes on Precursor Knights that want to dig harder into that Wolf unit, so knocking him over is just fine. That means those Precursors are going to get where they need to without we're having to worry about free strikes from Wolves of Orboros. Here are the Precursors going in to some of the Wolves, getting the ones in front, one of them going in on a stone, and the command module moving up. Got to check the command on the commander there. Unfortunately, I don't play this unit too often, so I forgot what the officer's command was. And it turns out to be 9 instead of 10, so he pushed up a little bit. And everyone was in command range. Here they are, the attacks going down. I take out 2 Wolves of Orboros, force a couple tough checks, and knock a couple more over. And end up, I don't think I kill that shifting stone that I charged. So unfortunately, the stealth unit of shifting stones is still operational. I did kill 2 stones out of the non-stealth unit, so that was good. But there's still 1 operational unit which I have to worry about. My opponent's turn going now. Constance Blaize did move forward and use her feet, so anything, my opponent has to be very careful where he puts that Carnivore and those Blood Drinker models, because he needs to remove from play as many of my models this turn as possible to deny Constance a very, very strong turn in the next turn. Here are the Skinwalkers moving up. They got their +2 speed from being damaged last turn. Unfortunately, not really able to use that very much because most of the Sword Knights are just jamming up anyway. Unfortunately, Skinwalkers are only mat 6, so they do need 7s to hit Sword Knights, and my opponent wasn't too good at rolling 7s today. Take a couple of rerolls from Morvahna, but that didn't help too much. But he is able to take out most of the Sword Knights that the Skinwalkers are in melee with. The one of the Sword Knights that he killed was out of my feet. Another one he healed with Blood Drinker, so I wasn't able to get a soul off that model. Here is his Stalker moving forward, taking Warping Strength, I think, casting his Animus on himself, taking a bunch of attacks into my Precursor Knights, killing a bunch of them. He does not have Carnivore, so I am getting souls off this, but with a Strength Warp, the Stalker goes up to Strength 18, and he's not going to have any problem punching through the armor of those one-wound models. And then moving back behind that wall with his Animus, which allows him to move after he destroys a model when his combat action is done. The Wolves of Orboros going in, charging with Carnivore. They go up to mat 10 on the charge, so they are going to not have any problem hitting those Defense 13 models. They're only power 9, so my feat's going to help a little bit, but boosting from the charge I don't think is going to be much of a problem for them to punch through my armor. My opponent did mini feat this turn just to make sure. And getting a couple kills off, removing from play my model so I don't get any souls, and then healing Morvahna back up from the damage she took from the Skinwalkers when she cut to reroll their attack rolls. Alrighty, so there's those Precursor Knights laid low. Unfortunately, though, my opponent had to move several wolves up and hasn't left any back too far, so I might be able to take that unit out if my opponent left Carnivore on there. Harlan Birch would be able to move up and kill a lot of them with multi-fire, and then I would be able to shoot the rest of them down. Unfortunately, my opponent ends up swapping Carnivore later on in the turn, so I'm not able to do that. Shifting Stone's moving up to get block charge lanes and just contest that zone. The Stonekeeper moving up and using Stone Form. Fortunately, because of the Precursor Knight spell ward, he doesn't have a lot of targets for his Rock Hammer spell. which is one of the benefits of having Spell Ward. Unfortunately, it's mainly a detriment to my models because I want to cast spells on them to buff them, but I can't do that. Here's Morvahna going, casting Carnivore onto the other Warpwolf Stalker, and the Druid Wilder putting Sprint on him, or the other way around. Druid Wilder casting Lightning Strike onto the Stalker, and then here goes Morvahna casting Carnivore, throwing a Sunder Spirit at one of the Sword Knights in the way. Hits. He moved up to do it and can move back with Light Cav. Unfortunately, it wasn't necessary because he has the Gallows Grove right there. But then just Light Cav's back into safety. Constance Blaize getting another soul off that Sword Knight. So fortunately, I'm going to get a couple. Not as many as I'd hoped though. The Stalker moving in. So he is Carnivore now. So unfortunately, Harlan Verse isn't going to be able to wipe through those Wolves of Orboros very quickly. The Stalker does have Carnivore though, and Harlan Verse is pretty good at killing Warpwolf Stalkers if he sets his mind to it. The Stalker moving up, taking a bunch of attacks. I think he warped Strength again this round. Or no, he warped Berserk with this one. And just doing a bunch of damage, taking out a bunch of dudes and removing them all from play, so I'm not going to be able to get souls off of them. And then moving back towards that objective to block line of sight to Morvahna, who's only sitting on 1 Fury, I believe. That sounds about right. Alright, and then last but not least, the Gorax moving up to threaten any models that move up to take out those Shifting Stones. Constance Blaize turning all those souls into focus so I can use them to do cool things, allocating 3 to the Storm Wall. That usually happens after my feat turn because I have so much focus to play with. The Sentinel going aiming. He only needs 7s to hit the Wolves now, rolling a high number for his attacks, rolling 5 attacks I think, boosting one of them, taking a bunch of Wolves out. Not as many as I'd hoped though. Leaving 3 in the zone and 2 Shifting Stones. So the plan this turn is going to be to clear both zones. If I'm able to do that, Constance can dominate my close one, and I can control the far one with the Sentinel, which will allow me to score 2 points, which is a pretty significant number. It means that I probably only need to clear my zone 2 more times. The Stormwall can take out the objective pretty easily, and if my opponent overcommits to my zone, I can easily shift over to the other zone with the amount of ranged firepower and Constance's speed. She's not particularly fast, but she's relatively speedy at speed 6 with reach, and the possibility of Crusader Skull if I need to. Here is some charging dudes getting in there. The green Precursor Knights charging. I've got 1 into the Gallows Grove across from my zone, 1 into each of the Shifting Stone, 2 into the close Shifting Stone over next to my White Precursor Knights, 1 into the other one. Hit and do a little bit of damage, not quite killing it. At dice -6, I do need to roll an 11 on a boosted charge attack to kill that model, so it is a little difficult. And I'm still not able to kill that Gallows Grove. It is proving to be very difficult to take out. Fortunately, that close Shifting Stone is dead, though, so I'm going to be able to move those White Precursor Knights up. There's Constance Blaize's turn, using some of that extra focus to throw a Sunburst towards the 2 Wolves of Orboros in the back of the zone there. If that Sunburst did deviate onto one of them and I boosted damage and was able to take them out, they would have been firstly RFP'd, so that Morvahna wouldn't have been able to bring them back, and it would have been 1 less model I need to take out to clear the zone. It's looking a little dicey for me to clear it. Stormwall moving up. Unfortunately, he's blocked a little bit by that objective and is just out of range to shoot that Wolf of Orboros. If he could take him out, that would have been made it very, very likely that I clear the zone with the number of attacks I have remaining. But he does not, and just ends up taking a shot at a Shifting Stone, I think, and removing it. So here are the White Precursor Knights going in after getting some Path to Victory from Runewood. Making some attacks. Hit the first Wolf Tuft, so unfortunately I'm not going to be able to clear that zone. I don't have enough ranged attacks left, and there is 1 model left. So I'm only going to be able to score 1 point this turn. My opponent didn't put anything in my zone, so I'm going to score 1 point for dominating that, but unfortunately not able to get the 2 I need to put significant scenario pressure onto Morvahna. It's still going to take a significant amount of effort to get 4 additional points for a scenario win. And between Morvahna's feet and the amount of damage she's about to do this turn, I don't think I'm going to be able to swing it. But we'll still try. We'll give it the old college effort and see how it goes. The Skinwalker's moving up here on my opponent's turn. One of them moving into the zone. He's going to be a little bit difficult to take out because he's so far away. But fortunately, I did leave those green Precursor Knights back over there next to the house. So I'm going to have a couple charges on him to try to take him out later. Here they are, taking some attacks. One of them charged into Harlanverse, needing 8s to hit. Missed his first attack. Reroll, also misses. Takes the second attack. Misses. Reroll again. Also misses that one. So fortunately, Harlanverse is still alive. So he's going to hopefully be able to deal some damage next turn if my opponent decides to swap some upkeep spells around. The Skinwalkers just taking out the last of the Sword Knights that have been jamming up that zone there. And the Sword Knights are dead. See you, Sword Knights. Here's the Gallows Grove, Strange Growthing into the forest in my opponent's zone there. That's really going to be a difficult model to remove, especially if those Precursor Knights end up getting taken out. I'm not really going to be able to get a model far enough back there to deal the damage I need to take that Gallows Grove out, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to clear my opponent's zone again in the future. Because they have Prowl, they do get stealth in a forest, so I'm not going to be able to shoot him with the big guns on the storm wall either. Morvahna's going, she's feeding, cutting herself for 8 boxes, putting back a Gallows Grove into my zone to try to block some charge lanes, and then putting 7 wolves back into play. I left 3 in the unit. If I was able to get to leverage a couple more ranged attacks into that unit, I had a good chance of wiping them out, so they wouldn't be able to come back. But unfortunately, without an upkeep on them, Harlanverse can't really hit. He needs 9s to hit under Fog of War, so that's going to be a little bit difficult for me to take out. But now they're all back. They're going to get Zombify from the Witch Dock one more time. That's going to be a little bit annoying. Morvahna putting a Death Knell into Constance Blaize, boosting a couple damage rolls, taking out 2 of the Green Precursor Knight unit, and dealing 3 damage, I believe, to the Officer. He still has his mini feat, so he is still going to be able to use that. Dealt nothing to Constance, I think. She is camping on a bunch of focus. She's armor 24 or 25 right now, with between Arcane Shield and the focus left over from her feat turn. Here are the wolves going in. Unfortunately, only 2 are going to be able to attack, because one of the ones I left alive was the Standard Bearer, and the rest were feeded back this turn, so they're not going to be able to do anything. The Witch Dot Crop moving up to zombify the unit. And the Shifting Stones shifting into my zone, just as additional contesting models. That is very annoying. They are immobile, which stops them from controlling the zone, but they can still contest if they're in the zone. And they are armor 18 with 5 boxes. They're a little bit annoying. Gorax just moving up. Got Sprint from the Druid Wilder and just getting up there and killing a Lightning Pod, sprinting away to get into an annoying spot. The Stalker moving up to take out the Precursors that took out the Shifting Stone in my opponent's zone. Warping Berserk, I believe. Killing the first one, second one, and the third one. Casting Sprint on himself. Boosting just to make sure he gets that last one. Moving back basically with the objective to block line of sight to Morvahna, who's not camping on many Fury. This is a good move because my opponent did not use Prowl on the Swarpwolf Stalker. He's not going to get stealth from Fog of War, which means he does block line of sight. And between that objective and that Stalker, the other Stalker, the Gorax isn't going to block line of sight to Morvahna, but I don't think, with the models in the way as they are, I don't think I can get anything line of sight onto Morvahna to take her out. So this is a good move on my opponent's part. She's very low on health and not camping on many transfers. So if I did get a couple shots into her, there's a good chance I could take her out. But unfortunately, I don't think I can leverage the firepower I need to. So my plan this turn is going to be to try to clear my zone again, dominate for another point, run Constance into the corner over there to try to survive that Stalker that's looking very, very close. Unfortunately, my Precursor Knights move in, take some attacks. My opponent starts making tons and tons of chuff checks. And I took out the Precursor Knights, able to take out 1 or 2 units, and my guns not being able to deal much more damage. The Stormwall is just moving over to take some shots at the Warpwolf that did not use Prowl. Take 1 cannon shot, boost a hit, hits it, boost the damage, deals a significant amount of damage. Harlan Verse did get a round of shooting at the other Stalker, dealing a couple points, so both Stalkers have been dinged up at this point. If the game does go to attrition, that damage is going to be pretty useful, because I'm going to be able to take out those Warpwolf Stalkers without much effort once I start dinging them up. All I need to do over here is to clear the zone. The Precursor Knights go in, one charging into the Skinwalker, another, the Stormwall, I didn't mention, took out the Gallows Grove with the other big gun, so that's not going to be a problem. But unfortunately, my Precursor Knight's not rolling particularly well this activation. The first one charging into the Skinwalker misses on a 5. The second one, or needing a 5, rolled a 4. The second one, I did pop my mini feet, so they are Weapon Masters this turn. Dice -6, power 12, Weapon Master, needing a 14 to kill, which is just about average, and not rolling it. So that Skinwalker's alive, so I'm not going to be able to leverage the firepower to clear this zone either. I moved up Constance, considering taking a Sunburst into that model, try to clear it and just score, but I thought against it because of the Stalker that was so close. I would have been killed pretty easily. But unfortunately, this was a bit of a mistake, because that Stalker is going to be able to get to me anyway, and between it being Warpwolf Stalker and hitting very accurately, very hard, with all of the buffs that Morvahna can give it, that Stalker is going to be able to get onto me with a significant amount of power anyway. So what I should have done, as soon as I noticed I couldn't clear the zone, what I should have done is moved backwards. I've found in the past a Stormwall and Constance Blaize can easily close out the game pretty well, and if they're both alive, that I'm in a very solid spot. But here is Carnivore, I believe, going down onto the Skinwalkers. Morvahna Purifying to drop Arcane Shield. So this Stalker is going to go in for the assassination run here. And I realized that I should have moved Constance Blaize a little bit farther back. The Skinwalker's moving in to clear the massive Precursor Knights that's in front of Constance Blaize. He needs to clear about 5 or 6 Precursor Knights, but with Carnivore, those Mat 8 Skinwalkers are not going to have trouble. The one in the corner there, killing the 2 Precursor Knights that charged him. We're trying. Morvahna taking some rerolls. And healing the damage back because of Carnivore. Clearing the first couple of Precursor Knights out of the center there. And last but not least, the Officer, I believe. Hitting... Oh, no, Officer's still alive. Unfortunately, the Stalker there has a straight charge right to Constance Blaize. He is in Morvahna's control area, which means he can both fourths and reroll. Hits the first one. Constance's armor 20. He goes up to power 20, so at straight dice. Deals a reasonable amount of damage. Buys an attack, boost to hit. Hits. Rolls some more damage. Buys and boosts the second one. Or boosts the second one. Rerolls to hit his 7 that he needs because he is primaled. And ends up hitting Constance Blaize, taking her out for the win. So unfortunately, that was a bit of a misplay on my part. I was a little tilted, I have to admit, by not being able to clear either of the zones. The last zone last turn and this zone this turn. Both of our dice sort of failed us this game. My opponent was having a bunch of trouble with those Skinwalkers taking out the Precursor Knights and the Sword Knights that were in front of them, and I just wasn't able to get the attacks to clear the zone. But that, without the ranged attacks that Cygnar usually has, that is one of the detriments that you have to deal with for playing a Theme Force. I do get lots of Precursor Knights, but I lose out on the boostable hand cannons that I usually I'm taking in a normal Cygnar list. Things like the Black 13th and Holt that are normally in play in a list to spot remove those models I really need to take out are not in this list because it is a Theme Force, and I'm just relying on melee attacks, which have a bit of weakness in terms of digging deep into those contesting models in the back of those zones. But it was a good game to my opponent. I had a good time. I think it would have been a lot more interesting if Constance had just bit the bullet and taken off and hidden behind that house this turn. So she would have survived and just tried to attrition the game down. Now that Morvahna's feat has been popped, I've done some damage to both of the Warp Wolves. If they move up, they are in range to get charged by the Stormwall. And if I take one of those Warp Wolves out, I feel pretty good about the Stormwall surviving the next turn. Especially since the the Wolves of Orboros had already popped their mini feat to take out the Precursor Knights on my feat turn, so they weren't going to be able to deal much damage, and I was going to be able to take out a couple more of them between the Sentinel and the remaining Precursor Knights. But unfortunately, I didn't get to see how the game would have turned out because I got killed by a Warpwolf Stalker. But pro tip: don't leave your caster within 11 inches of Warpwolf Stalker. That's bad news. But I hope you all enjoyed this battle report. Stay tuned for some more battle reports on this YouTube channel and wayoftheswan.com. And keep it classy, folks.